Hey everybody, this is Captain Frugal reporting for duty, giving you my weekly comic book review. So sit back and enjoy. Alright everybody, for those of you that know the drill, I go over a bunch of comic books for the week that I chose to read. Now I didn't have time to read everything, so if I missed something you think I should have read, let me know in the comments below. Also, you may disagree with me on some of my choices. If that's the case, that's alright. Let me know below. Let's just try to keep it civil. My goal is to bring back the old schoolyard days, you know, where we would be in discussing what hero could beat who or what comic book was good and not. And I come armed with my trusty notes, so you'll hear the paper rattle because I do it a little bit old school. I do my grading on a scale of 0 through 10, 7 being average as a 70%. So I'm using schoolyard grading. But that's not all. I also use the League of Comics Geeks to give you other people's views as well as a brief overview of the comic book as well. So let's jump right in. Hey friends, this is Captain Frugal reporting for duty, giving you my weekly comic book review. I haven't put up much videos this week, but I wanted to make sure I got this one in. Things have been a bit crazy. Also on top of that, I have been appreciating all your recommendations for comic book reading. If you have any recommendations, please go ahead and leave them to me. Trust me, I am going to get to them eventually. I'm still currently reading through Captain America from the very start to the very end again. And you know, that's a lot of issues. I'm in the 340s, almost 350 now. So, you know, I'm getting there. With that said, let's start with some real trash. Let's go with The Amazing Spider-Man number 67. And by the way, share your views on these comics too if you think I'm wrong. So anyway, Amazing Spider-Man number 67. Yeah, it had 182 ratings with a 2.8 score, mostly negative on League of Comics Geeks. Woo, that's a tough one. I got my notes here, by the way, in my pen here. That's a pretty bad one. But that just shows you people aren't caring for this story. You know what? I'm right there with them. I gave this a 6. This is just not good. You know, this type of story just doesn't fit Spider-Man. I understand we kind of try things different once in a while, but in my opinion, this one is a miss. The writer is Justina Ireland and artist Nico Herrera, sorry, dude, I butchered your name. Also, Andra Brocato. I don't butcher names out of any ill intent there, so please don't take it that way. So anyway, this is more of the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man series here with the Sidorak kind of people all, you know, have to fight Spider-Man. And now we got the X-Men jumping in. So if you're an X-Men fan, that's a plus to this. But here's the thing. The dialogue, first of all, this issue is lame. Peter says, pass, unsubscribe. I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. So, as I said, you got that as a negative. We have the X-Men joining the fight. That might be a positive to you. And the story continues to escalate here. But that's the thing. I'm just not a fan of the story. The art's decent, so maybe there's a plus. But ultimately, this story is not a Spider-Man story. I don't think it's very interesting. The only good maybe I could take from this is we're not seeing Mary Jane with that douche of a partner of hers now that didn't make any sense at all. You know what? I think we need to cleanse our palate from that turd we just talked about. So let's talk about Transformers number 17. This one had 256 ratings with a 4.4 rating on League of Comics Geeks. Very positive. You know what? I'm agreeing this time too. I gave it an 8 out of 10. The writer is Daniel Warren Johnson and artist is George Corona. And what's, you know, this has been an interesting series. I really like how they breathe life into robot kind of characters here. And as we continue having this war rage on, Decepticons fighting Decepticons and the Autobots trying to save everybody else around them, we're going to get somebody else entered. Yep, and we get the Ultra Magnus. So if you're an Ultra Magnus fan, well, there you go. If you're not, well, it is what it is. I like the cover of this issue. It gives you an insight. I mean, it has a depth to it. You know, I think it's an okay cover for art-wise, but if you think about that, this robot Decepticon is built into the machine, can't be separated from the machine or it will kill him. And you actually see heart, if you will, in this. And this fight is just, it continues to be an interesting brawl as well. And so I'm enjoying it.
It has some interesting alternate covers as well. If you are a Transformers fan, I'd definitely recommend beginning this if you haven't. Matter of fact, even if you're not a Transformers fan, I think you might be surprised and find enough value in the story to want to read this. Next one I want to talk about is Moon Knight. Fist of Khonshu, number 5. It had a 4.3 rating, very positive, with 192 people rating it. And you know what? I gave it a 7.7, so I'm not too terribly far from what they put on there for their views as well. The writer is Jed MacKay and artist is Dev Prometnik, which I once again butchered the name. Still reeling from the brutal events of the past 2 issues, Mark Spector and what's left of his midnight mission, because it's been torn apart, have no choice but to retreat and to regroup, as they've been accused, and wrongly accused, of being drug pushers. They're against everything. The law and all is against them. And remember from last issue, if you didn't, he challenged the head of the organization that's going against him for a one-on-one fight. And this issue, we have good art, good story. Moon Knight learns, though. He learns a lesson about not underestimating the enemy. Yeah, he underestimates it because he didn't really realize what was going on there. And the last page, I won't give it away, is the reveal of why it had led to that, what he underestimated. So he's thinking he's fighting a regular person. I'll give you that. But we find out there's a lot more to it than that. You know, I've really been enjoying, I know not everybody is a fan of, you know, Moon Knight, and I get that, but I've been really enjoying this take on Moon Knight, and it's been interesting. So if the background cast of characters, I think, helps sell it as well, and that's something we don't always see in a lot of comic books, that the background cast of characters are intriguing. I mean, who would have thought that 8-Ball would add anything worth reading to? And he didn't have a lot to do with this one, mind you, but it's just, there's something about it that adds some more interest to the story with this cast of characters, and I'm enjoying it, and hey, maybe you will too.
Hey guys, today's video is sponsored by My Wallet. Yeah, I'm not trying to push any kind of wallet or pimp any wallet out. What I mean is it's sponsored by my personal wallet and the cash that comes out of it to pay for these things. If you want to help with this, you can hit like, subscribe, that notification bell. Those are great ways to get started. But if you find yourself in a position where you can help the channel more, we have a Patreon and a subscribe star down below that you can click on those links. And for as little as $1 a month, you'll have special videos and things to just you, music that you can get. Or maybe if you wanted to, a one-time donation just to help out, we have a Streamlabs link down below. Or we also have, if you go to the Patreon shop, you could buy a song for like $3. I wish I could put them a little lower, but that's the minimum they allow for that. So there's lots of options. Sometimes you might even see an Amazon link. If you want to buy anything through Amazon, click on my link first, then go through there. That'll give me a couple pennies, possibly that way too as well. So there's lots of ways you can help out the channel, because without you, it would not be possible. So thank you, everybody. And let's get back to the video.
The next one I want to talk about is created clearly because of the movie that's out, and that's Sam Wilson, Captain America #2. It has 85 ratings with a 3.7, mostly positive rating on League of Comics Geeks, and you know, I gave it a 6.7, so not as high as they did. Before we get all mad and write your meanness in the comments, just hear me out, okay? Writer's Greg Pak, as well as Evan Narcisi, and artist is Eder Messias, which once again I probably butchered it. So anyway, we have Sam Wilson versus the Red Hulk. Well, after Eagle Star shows its true colors, Sam tangles with the Big Red and furious head of security. But another player is about to enter the fray. Yep, and so we're going to get some more information here, some more into the story, but let's get on. First of all, before the hate train comes, I like Sam Wilson. Okay, remember that. Matter of fact, I've got the Falcon, a big action figure of the Falcon here in my office, and I've got littler action figures of him. I've always liked the character. I think he makes a worthwhile successor to Steve Rogers. Okay, so before you get on the hate train, there you go. Also has some alternate covers for this. They're particularly good. One is from a classic Captain America issue that they put him in. That leads to part of the problem I have with this though too as well. First, everyone knows that this series is just out to capitalize on the movie. Let's be honest. But the real question is there enough here to retain readers? The cover's pretty good art there. I'll give them that. And the whole issue is pretty decent art too as well. But the issue I have with this, and this is a common thing we're seeing for Sam Wilson, but this is where it could be ticky-tack, is that the writer seems too focused on race and not enough on the story. Now, with that said, if you look back over the history, though, of Captain America and Sam Wilson, there has always been a lot to do with race in this character. So I don't necessarily have any issue on that. But the issue I do have is maybe it's time to move beyond that. This character is interesting enough on his own. We don't have to keep using race as a part of a story. And for somebody like Sam Wilson, smart as Sam Wilson, and does the kind of good work he does, you think he would stop focusing as much on segregation and more on unification. It just seems like this smart character would know that and be able to move past that. But clearly in this book, the far left ideology is sinking into the story, and those personal views, I think, are creeping in. And that's a shame, because that's a real missed opportunity. They could do a lot more with this story rather than hanging on race. And there's the key issue there. I think these writers are lazy when it comes to Sam Wilson. Sam Wilson's story shouldn't, I mean, once in a while we can have one with race, sure. But if you look, when's the last story we've had with Sam Wilson that was not based on race? It didn't have a big racial element to it. And there's the flaw right there. They're lazy and they can't get past race. This character deserves more than that. Sam Wilson's a cool character, in my opinion. I'd like to know yours. Matter of fact, I think he still should have stayed as the Falcon. Just giving him the name Captain America was completely done as a marketing tool because they want to market based on that. But they didn't need to do that. I've said this in other videos, because people seen Sam Wilson in the movies and they're like, oh wow, this character's pretty cool. They should have capitalized on that and deepened him as his own hero. So what they did is actually cheapened his legacy by changing his heroic title to something that's already out there, diluting the Captain America pool in the first place. But that's my thoughts, not yours. I'd like to know what you think. And once again, remember, I like Sam Wilson, so before you call me racist and all that, just keep that in mind. The next one I want to talk about is Deadpool number 11. It had a 4.1 very positive rating with 100 ratings. Yeah, not so bad there. I gave the book, though, a 7.8. Pretty strong as well. The writer is Cody Ziegler. Artist is Andrea Di Vito, which, once again, I probably mispronounced his name. Deadpool and daughter embark on their first major job together, and it's to take out Miles Morales, Spider-Man. Yeah, it's a dirty job, but someone's got to do it, and boy, I wish they would have succeeded. Right? Ooh, I know that's harsh. Once again, don't pull the racist and all this stuff. It's just, I've said it before, I don't think Miles has really went and elevated his level ever since he left the Ultimate Universe. He was good in that universe ever since, and he's sort of been a waste. This is a goofy story, but that's normal for Deadpool, and that's what we like about it. We have goofy characterization. Once again, a good thing. This issue has good art, and it does have fun action and banter. So if you like the Deadpool silliness, this issue is probably going to be good for you. If you don't like that silly, breaking out the fourth wall, goofy stuff, this is probably not your book. So there you go. You have an idea of that, of if it might be interesting to you or not. The next one I want to talk about is Batman and Robin. Yes, I'm probably going to get in trouble for that one, right? Batman and Robin number 18. It had 178 ratings with a 3.8 mostly positive score from League of Comics Geeks, and I gave it a 7.9. I agree, this one's pretty strong too. The writer is Philip Kennedy Johnson, and artist is Carmen de Mancillo, and Miguel Mendoza, and Xavier Fernandez. Once again, see, I just can't do names. I don't know what the deal is. We have more on the story of Memento. Yes, Memento's gruesome rampage across Gotham continues. And so we're getting more into that story, as well as also more into Damian and thoughts about his place in the heroic spectrum. It's nice seeing more of the Red Hood in this too. You know, I like the Red Hood, and he was working with Batman. And matter of fact, if they keep it true to character and not have Red Hood bow down to him and be his snarky self, it might be fun to see more stories with the Red Hood and Batman paired together. The Red Hood gives Batman some advice too. Yeah, you heard me right. He actually gives Batman some advice. And here's the thing too. Robin hears something about when he listens in on an accident to Batman and the Red Hood speaking together. But he didn't get the whole information, the whole story. And he hears something that may damage his relationship with his father further. And that actually comes to a head at the very end of the issue. So if you want an issue with more character development and an intriguing story, because the Momentum character, well, we get a twist on that. We find out it might have been, well, they thought it was the person that was actually Batman's mentor learning to be a detective, even though it probably wasn't. We have good art and an interesting story. I think this book earned its 7.9 rating, and I think it's one that you might want to check out if you enjoy the characters of Batman and Robin. I know I did. The next one I just had to get was Green Lantern Corps #1. Yeah, it's nice to see this series brought back again. I've been enjoying Green Lantern. I'm a big fan of Green Lantern. Hal Jordan's the best Green Lantern. Deal with it if you don't like that. But that doesn't mean the rest of the Green Lanterns aren't good characters. And this is where this kind of series comes into play, because we get to see the other great Green Lanterns like John Stewart and Guy Gardner. And we get Kyle. I've never been a Kyle Reiner fan, though. So anyway, this book had 245 ratings with a 3.9, mostly positive rating from Leo Comics Geeks, and I agree, I gave it a 7.8. Writers Jeremy Adams, good job, as well as Morgan Hampton, good job, and pencilers Fernando Parson, which I also think did a good job. So the Corps is back, and just in time for a new Deadly Fractured Spectrum saga to kick in. Yes, we have this whole thing with the colors are all going goofy, and we get to see the new team of the Green Lantern Corps and learn that that Corps is going to be growing and how it's going to be growing. And I think that's an interesting and really fascinating part. It used to be if a lantern died, the rings would fly off and find a new person. They don't do that now. The lanterns themselves are evaluating people and giving them the ring. So we get characters like John Stewart in this, Kyle Reiner, Jessica Cruz, Guy Gardner, Joe Moon, and all your, these other lanterns, some lesser good than others. I agree. We can't like them all the same, right? But I have to say a large portion of them I think are very good. All of them together, so you get a lot of lanterns here. John Stewart in this issue makes a construct of Superman. That was cool. And then an interesting thing, I don't know if it was done on purpose, because John Stewart usually does more tech engineered, kind of highly intricate constructs, where he did just like a big ball, something like Hal would do, and I thought that was good too. The art was definitely good throughout this issue. But you ready for this one? I'm going to drop a bomb. Sinestro is back as a Green Lantern again. Now this could lead to some very interesting stories, seeing can he maintain being on the right side of good and not slipping to the side of fear. This I think this could be a highly good, really good potential arc here. And so we get that, and they at the end they get a new member, and they go into how they're going to get these new members. So I think this book is off to a solid start and has a lot of leads to potential really good stories. With the Spectrum being fractured, they have to take advantage of that in a positive way, put a positive spin on these powers coming out to recruit more Green Lanterns, finding how it could impact them. I really do. I think this is on to a good start. But you know what? I'm going to do a little bit of what I did last time I did a comic book review last week, because people like that I've talked about some of the readers' comments. So let's look into some of these reader comments there. And I'm going to see, first one I see here says, wow, I had to loosen my belt after this. This issue leaves you full. Think about that. I like that. That's a good comment there. There's more to it too. It says Adams, oh boy, this is a long one. It's been polarizing, but for some. But if you aren't vibing with this, I don't know what else you could want. That's all I'm going to read from that comment. I think that's true. This is a good start, people. I definitely think you should do it. But let's look at a negative one now. It says, I do not like this book. I would not read it in a house. I would not read it read it to a mouse. I would not read it here or there. I wouldn't read it anywhere. This book to me is a microcosm of what's wrong with modern DC. We are redoing plot lines, nostalgia baiting, and aping better runs. Ooh, he has some interesting points there. I think this setup is weak. Fractured Spectrum simply isn't an engaging idea. Personally, I find the color spectrum to be a very creatively bankrupt idea, because it's always bogged down in endless wars. I don't like the idea that Sinestro is a Green Lantern again, which makes zero sense in this run. Why are they no aliens in the main cast? Why is it all humans? Sinestro's not a regular human, people. Correct me if I'm wrong there. And I do believe there were lots of aliens here, like Thanagarian, which I can't pronounce their name, Thanagarians, that kind of stuff. So I don't understand that. However, my biggest issue with this is the ending. Oh boy. Yep. And he gets into why he doesn't like that, and I don't want to get into all that. I don't want to give away all the issue. I just don't get it. I don't agree with this this person at all in their views. But there's some people there that did somewhat agree. And I think that's interesting. So I wanted to share some of that and the insight. So we have some very positive and negatives. Let's read one more positive to try to balance it out a little bit. Holy poop. They used other words here. I wasn't expecting this existential religious horror plot around and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, they're actually getting a little deep into this one. But this person hasn't read many GL comics before, they're saying. So maybe they don't have as much of a stake in it, something new and fresh. That one might not be the best one. Let me go to one more. It says, really enjoyed this. Adams juggles the human lanterns well while introducing the threat and the rebuild of the core. The mission to Tamranian made me happy. I can't remember the last time it was featured outside of anything, Titans or Starfire related. And it was cool seeing Commodore again and Commander. Man, I cannot speak today. I apologize, everybody. And if this wasn't enough, we get the ending for all the JLU animated series. Yes, if you are a Justice League Unlimited fan, you probably will like what happens here at the end. So there we are. We have some back and forth, some different views and on that, some positive and some very negative. If you read this, I want to know your view. But we're going to stick to a little bit of Green Lantern style here. We're going to talk about DC versus Vampires World War V, Darkness and Light #1. This is the last one we'll do, so please stick with me through this. It had 80 ratings with a 4.5 score of exceptional on League of Comics Geeks, and I gave it a 7.8. Not as strong, but still very good. Writer is Matthew Rosenberg. Artist is Nicola, and I'm not even trying to butcher that name. I'm sorry, guy. So we have two sides of the same story shown here in one incredible special. Yes, because we get one part, and then when it leaves us thinking one thing, it gives us a secondary story, giving us another. I gave this book a 7.8. I think it did a good job. I might even probably should have given it a higher score, because normally when you have back-to-back stories, they sometimes cross a little bit, but this one has a lot more meaning to it. We have Wonder Woman, Child of Themyscira, turned vampire, of course, and Alfred, Butler of the Waynes, turned Green Lantern. Their paths couldn't be any different, but for each, a chance encounter will force them to re-examine what it means to survive in a world ruled by darkness, showcasing two sides of the same story. This double feature special issue illustrates how anger and vengeance can break you, or it can be used to fuel you, or maybe even be your ruin, or, well, maybe your salvation. With that said, we do really get an interesting story here. We get introduced to a character, and this girl's protecting her brother, and the Wonder Woman vampire sees something in her and thinks that she could be more. And so we see things from her getting brought up from her perspective. But then we see her death too. And her death is by Guy Gardner. Yeah, so we get Guy Gardner in this. Now we get a few pages in this first story. That's it, because some bad stuff happens to Guy. Guy takes out the new character we're just introduced to, and that does not make Wonder Woman very happy. And what she does to Guy Gardner, holy cow, she rips him in half. So you think this dude is dead. I mean, yeah. But then we get to the second story. In the secondary story, we have Alfred. He was hurt, knocked out. He gets saved by this kid, and this kid says, oh, I know somebody can help you. And takes to it, and it's none other than Guy Gardner. This is after he was ripped apart. You heard me right. He's actually, and this is pretty cool, he's using the power ring to keep himself alive. He's like created a mechanical body thing, body, if you will, for his lower half, keeping him alive. They go, well, how can you sleep? Because then your construct would disappear. He doesn't sleep anymore. He then uses the construct to stimulate his mind and his brain. It's a really cool concept. And it's an interesting thing. And so he trains Alfred. And Alfred has to take another fight with none other than the Wonder Woman vampire, which then sees what we believe to be, well, Guy Gardner getting killed again. But does he? Continue reading the issue to the end and see for yourself. I think this was really well done. When you read it first, this dude is dead. And then you're like, oh my goodness. And I think that's a very intriguing, interesting type of construct that you wouldn't expect from somebody like Guy Gardner. Maybe from John Stewart, but not Guy Gardner. Gives a new spin and a new look on him. But also, Guy Gardner the way he planned things and what he did at the end is also more smart than you would once again expect from Guy Gardner, showing that maybe throughout all this event, he's really grown and matured a lot as a Green Lantern. I really like this issue. You know what? I gave it a 7.8, but I'm going to change my rating. I'm going to bump it up to an 8 right now because as I talk about it, I realize how much more I even liked it then. Well, that's my view this week on the comic books. Please share me yours. I'd love to hear them. And until next time, everybody, keep it frugal.